Welcome to another Destiny Patch Notes update. This is for 1.1.1. It's the long-awaited weapons rebalance update. So this is Lynch from the Chaotic Neutral podcast, going over the fine-tunings of the update. So first we got the weapons. I'll link the detailed weapons tuning in the link dump. But first, for the general issues that were fixed, they finally fixed the heavy weapons glitch, where when you died and if you had an item that increased your heavy weapons reserves, that you would lose that number every time you died or spawned in. So they finally fixed that issue. Decreased the over-penetration value for weapons with armor piercing. Fixed an issue where items from the PS3 360 Destiny demo were using old power values. They have been adjusted to regular levels. Song of Ur-Yut weapon tooltip now advertises the correct magazine size. That's finally they did that, because it was 38 before, I think it was, and you actually got like 78, I believe, something like that. The shoot to loot perk, I believe it is, 2-second cooldown added to perk to prevent extra ammunition gains while ammunition bricks despawn. Dark Breaker perk will now correctly damage Hive Shriekers. Snap Discharge will now increase attack speed as per the description. Thunderer perk has now has priority on the 4th Horseman tooltip. I don't know what that is, but if you have it and you've been using it, now it actually works correctly, I guess. Full auto fixed an issue where the weapon perk stopped working while the trigger was being held down. That's finally fixing that. I could see that with Visions of Confluence. It'd get through like 3 or 4 rounds and then just kind of not work, so you'd have to re-pull the trigger. Not a big problem for me, it was kind of annoying when it happened. Finally, they're fixing that. On to specific weapons. For the auto rifles, they reduced the base damage of the auto rifles by 2.5% and reduced the effective range values. Not entirely sure how I feel about that. I'll probably put something up at a later date when I start doing the CNP weapons lab. But I don't feel that auto rifles needed another nerf. Maybe in PvP, but and that's the problem where you get into it with a system that has a PvP and a PvE, where the PvP dictates how the damage works for the weapons and items and things like that. And it seems to be, it's just hurting the auto rifles in PvE so much right now, because I've switched from auto rifles as my primary go-to weapon to actually scout rifles now. And I hated scout rifles at the beginning, but now that auto rifles have been kind of nerfed into unusability other than the exotics, it's kind of have to have that range and a good fire rate, and that's where I found in a good scout rifle. Onto the pulse rifles. Increased base damage of pulse rifles by 9.7%. Hopefully this will help out with the pulse rifles, because the pulse rifles were just terrible for a very long time, and I just refused to use them because they were underpowered. They didn't have much impact. Even when, even compared to the auto rifles, the pulse rifles seemed like their impact was far lower. Especially when with the auto rifles, you can put that concentrated damage on and stack the impact rounds, so you can actually stagger something. Where with the pulse rifles, it felt like you just couldn't ever stagger anything. So hopefully, with the base damage, it feels like they actually have an impact now. It doesn't sound like they've actually increased the impact on anything, on any pulse rifles. But hopefully, just with that damage increase, it'll feel a lot more solid. Onto hand cannons. They slightly reduced the effective range and slightly reduced initial accuracy, which I can see that because hand cannons were taking the place of scout rifles, because you had the same range and accuracy as a scout rifle, but the hand cannons just straight up hit harder.
That's it. There it is.
To fusion rifles, widen the blast pattern on a fusion rifle burst cone and reduce starting ammunition in PvP. Because fusion rifles are monsters in PvP. I love them so much. And widen the blast pattern. I guess that's I'm not entirely sure. I'll have to I'll have to play with it. You could keep a pretty tight pattern on normal fusion rifles before this this update happened, but we'll see. Shotguns. Increase damage against all non-guardian combatants by 2 times. 100% increase. That's cool because they I don't know. I'm not entirely sure if shotguns needed that. I don't use shotguns particularly. Reduced high-end range values. Damage fall-off starts sooner, and reduced starting ammunition in PvP. So I guess I don't really use shotguns because they're too short range, and it sounds like they're even making them even shorter range. So it's kind of making them, shoving them out of viability. PvP, it's still they're probably really still viable, but in PvE they're just worthless. Unless they start adding more shotguns in with slug rounds, which would be fantastic. Please, Destiny, start putting slugs into shotguns, because the burst pattern, you're taking an entire weapon category out of PvP viability. Onto activities. For the strikes, weekly heroic strike is now a match-made activity, and strikes will be less likely to repeat in matchmaking rotations for full fire teams. That's cool, because the RNG for the strike playlists was awful. You could get through the same strike 3 times in a row, and it was just painful. And the weekly heroic strike, okay, I'm half on board with that. I personally don't like matchmaking with randoms. I'd rather play with my friends, and if I don't have enough to fill a fire team for a weekly heroic strike, I'd rather go in by myself or with one other person, and we'll make it work, because, well, it's the weekly. It's not that hard. But it's just, or I wish we had the options to matchmake or go in with a pre-made that is a not fully formed pre-made. Just a little something out there I would like to see. Onto PvP. Players will now unlock all playlists simultaneously when unlocking the Crucible. Okay, that's finally... I don't really play PvP, so I'm just going to run down this list, really. Added a new notification when Crucible modes unlock. Crucible maps will be less likely to repeat in matchmaking rotations for full fire teams. Guardians no longer drop heavy ammunition when killed in PvP. Guardians now drop much less special ammunition when killed in PvP. Completed matches will now award gear with a proper power level. Fixed a bug where there was no audio playing for the bullet that kills them. For the Iron Banner playlist now contains smaller maps in rotation. Focused aggression bounty can now be completed with headshots from pulse rifles, scout rifles, and hand cannons. Onto items. Fixed an issue in which Xur did not carry exotic engrams in inventory on certain dates. Crota's End completion emblems will now be sent to the postmaster when player inventory is full. Ammunition consumables will now work if used when player inventory is full. Fixed issues that prevented qualifying players who had deleted their characters from claiming the Tumbler Sparrow from Tess Everest in the tower. They're fixing Xur. That's good. Kind of fixing Xur. That's good. I wish Xur actually had something more usable every week. Bungie has stated that Xur's inventory is completely random. They have no control over what Xur brings. It's just a random, an RNG, a random number generator on what he brings into the tower every week. I wish they would do something about that, because it for the last 4 or 5 weeks, there has been nothing from him that I wanted, because it has been like the same stuff over and over and over. I think there's been a total of 3 weapons over the last 2 months, if memory serves me correctly. It's been No Land Beyond, Icebreaker, and something else, some other weapon that just wasn't usable for me at least, because I already had it. I just wished that the weapon was a little bit more random. That's about all I have to say on the items. Onto the user interface. The character inventory screen now displays faction reputation and weekly mark counters. Players in public spaces will no longer see voice notifications when a player in a matchmake fire team enter. Players will now see improved notification when teammates join and depart team and fire team chat channels. Okay, that's good that they're finally, so we don't have to run around the tower and look at each individual reputation to see how close we are to the next level, how much rep we have. That's finally good. Or go back out into orbit and see how many counters we have how many marks we have for the week. Finally, they put that in. That should have been something that was implemented in the first month. Why now? Why this late in the game? I have no real opinion on the notifications for the fire team chats. That wasn't really a big issue for me. Once in a while, when I'm trying to look for the swords of Crota on Earth and the Moon, it was getting a little distracting, but not a huge thing. Onto the Grimoire cards. Grimoire scores, whatever. Combined Arms Grimoire cards will now unlock when completing a Clash or Control game. House of Wolves card will now unlock upon the start of Ishtar Collective Story Mission. Guardian Abilities card will be granted when a player enters orbit. Siege Dancers card will be granted upon the start of the Dust Palace Strike. Completing Crota's End now adds the Raid Introduction Grimoire card's completed statistic. Irut Grimoire card will now unlock appropriately. Siege of the Warmind card will now unlock appropriately. Fixed Grimoire scores for the following cards: Omnigul, Irut, Crota, The Awakening, The Will of Crota, Crota's End, Ascendant Sword, Pantheon, Sky Shock, The Cauldron, Might of Crota, Ghost Fragment, Rasputin, Rasputin 2, and Hive 4. Onto the technical details. DLC and patch systems have been improved. Xbox One upsell from trial version to full version no longer makes you leave the game. Improved networking resilience to packet reordering. Network improvements for certain routers. A couple little things in there. Don't have any real opinions on them either. It's cool that they're doing little tweaks to the technical side, especially the networking. Know that I have some problems with the PlayStation 4 network card, but that's a hardware issue that I have, not a software issue with Bungie. Quick edit that they added in at the end. Bug was introduced in 1.1.1 patch that caused the Vex Mythoclast to spawn with less ammo in the magazine and reserves in PvP. This weapon was affected by overall fusion rifle changes because it is treated as a secondary weapon, and they intend to correct this issue in a further release. Alright, so that's 1.1.1, the weapons update. So, if you have any thoughts, comments, complaints about it, start up a conversation in the comments, and I'll keep continuing to do these patch notes videos for as long as I'm playing Destiny. which should be for a fair bit into the future, because I'll be at least staying through till House of Wolves, and if House of Wolves doesn't impress me, I might just kind of put this down for a little while. But hopefully House of Wolves will live up to the expectations that we have for this game. And until next time, I'll see you in orbit.